Hello, agentpreneurs, and welcome to today's episode of the Daily List Report. As always, I think we've got a great show for you today. We've got Chris Naugle, all the way from Buffalo, New York. He is an investment money specialist. We'll get to his background in a second. And this is a topic that I know is near and dear to all of our hearts, even if sometimes we don't think about it as much as we probably should. He is the founder of the Money School. He is also the founder of FlipOut Academy. He understands real estate. He's a money mentor for the Money Multiplier. Everything he does deals with money, investments, money management, understanding, and I'll let him talk all about that good stuff. He actually had an HGTV show called Risky Builders, which is fun, so we'll talk with him a little bit about that experience. I've had a few guests on this show who've had experience with HGTV and really how that helped them with their brand, because people like that stuff. People like that content. He's also a former pro snowboarder, so we might talk a little bit about that. I've had pro surfers on the show and other former professional athletes, and it's interesting to see how that has shaped their mindset and who they've become. So, of course, while you're here, if you like this content, please consider subscribing. Click the little bell so that you're notified of all future episodes. And without further ado, here's Chris. Chris, welcome to the Daily List Report.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. So, Chris, here's what I always do. I give my guests a minute or two to just introduce themselves. I want people to get a sense for who you are and why you do what you do, why you're good at what you do. So why don't you give yourself a quick intro?
Sure, just a normal guy, grew up in a very normal place called Buffalo, New York. Entrepreneur since 16 years old. I was a dream to be a pro snowboarder, and that led to multiple stores. We had Fat Man board shops, and entered the financial world early 2000s, became one of the top advisors as an advisor. Real estate entered the world in the about 2006, did my first flip, took that all the way through. I had a lot of failures. Now, I almost went bankrupt in 08, almost lost it all again in 14, but that's kind of part of my story. And now today, done 263 flips, had a show on HGTV, and I'm known as America's #1 money mentor. And it's not your traditional stocks, bonds, mutual fund stuff. I retired from the financial world in 2018. I teach people the truth about how money works today.
So I love that. It's a provocative statement, right? I teach people the truth, right? So why don't you expand on that a little bit? What does that mean? What does the industry not want to tell you, and why? Why aren't they motivated to do that? Why did you sort of find this opportunity? What does that mean to tell the truth?
So that's a great question. And really what it comes down to is we're really taught our entire lives to give up control of our money. Think about everything you've done with money. You've always been taught to give up control of your money, giving up control to the banks, give up control to the 401k companies, the finance companies. Listen, I was on the inside. I was doing the Wall Street thing for 16 plus years. I'll tell you that that's just what we taught people to do. But the thing is, that's really funny is you'll never find anybody that cares more about your money than you. So why are you giving up control of your best dollars, the most valuable dollars that you'll ever have? You give up control for some plan or some future hope, and that's what it was. When you'd be better off just learning just a couple things, changing just one thing in your life and putting yourself back in control of your money so that you then can learn how to go out and make your money work for you.
It's an interesting concept, and it's one that, of course, is, I imagine, on the one hand, scary for some people. And on the other hand, it's tremendously empowering, right? Because you're absolutely right? We take our money, we put it into some allocation, into some investment, and if times are good, it goes up and we're happy, and times are bad, it goes down, and we stop opening the envelopes for a few months or a few years, right? Like you sort of stay away from it. You're smiling, so that resonates.
That resonates a lot because, I did this with, tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars professionally. And the one thing I'll tell you, what people know about their investments is they know when they get their statement, whether the balance went up or went down. Some of them know whether they're in conservative, moderate, or high risk. That's about it. And most of them don't even open the envelope. So you are dead on and absolutely right, which is scary because we care so much about what things that money, what money does first, the cars, the houses, the lifestyle, but we don't give two craps about our money. So how can we not care about our money, but we care about what our money does? That's the big problem. And that's really conditioning. It's not anyone's fault. It's not someone's fault that they don't know about money. It's not somebody's fault they don't know how to make their money work for them. That's what they've been conditioned and taught their whole lives. And that has to change.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, Chris. I think there's just, for most people, there's just some sense that they don't have control over it, right? There's just some sense that they don't understand what happens. And I've raised tens of millions of dollars for businesses that I've built, and I've seen that side just in general. And there is this weirdness about it, right? Which is there's something happening over there that I'm just along for the ride, and in fact, I'm the sacrificial lamb, right, from time to time, because I don't have those tips, those tricks, those understandings. So, but it's scary, right? So where does somebody start when you think about, in particular, for let's say real estate agents, because that's who's listening right now? What are the unique challenges that real estate agents have as it relates to their money, and how do you advise them?
Well, my wife's a realtor, and being a real estate investor, I understand that side. Most realtors, they're going out, they're doing business, they're making commissions, and it's always chasing the next deal. You kill and then you eat, and that's what you do, and you're always chasing that. But the one thing is a lot of the information realtors are brought is not what to do with that money. They're basically always being told, give up control, put your money in this IRA, put your money in this 401k, all these things that take control of your money away, which a realtor or a real estate investor, kind of one and the same, that real estate is the path, right? Most realtors know that real estate is a great place to park money to make long-term wealth. And it is. It's the greatest investment of all time. But the problem is to do real estate, you need to either, number one, understand how money works and understand how to use other people's money, or number two, just have a lot of money yourself, or a combination of the two. So those are the things that, realtors, I think, understand. But then how do you get that money? How do you get control of that money to then do more deals? And I think the biggest thing is we've been taught to put our money in these investment accounts that we can't always access the money. We've put our money in bank accounts where that money sits and loses, the equivalence of whatever inflation is, let's call it 3.2% by today's numbers. And if you're making 1% in your bank account, you're essentially losing 2.2% every single year. You're working backwards and you're not doing what's prudent to your money. And if you just changed one thing, and that one change is where that money went first, everything else remains the same. I'm not talking about, the other gurus that say eat rice and beans, and when you're sick of rice and beans, eat, beans and rice. We're not talking about that. I'm saying go enjoy your nice car. Go enjoy Starbucks every single morning. Don't change your lifestyle. Change what your money does for you and how you actually, and that there will change a lot of things. Maybe not overnight, but over time, that will dramatically impact your future. And I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff right now that's high, it's very high level, and you're like, well, I don't understand. We'll get into that. And if we don't even get into it, I'll give you a bunch of resources, on how you can learn this. This isn't hard stuff. When I was an advisor, my job was to teach it so that it seemed complicated, because that's how I got paid. Right. See, I don't get paid that way anymore. So now I teach people how to basically take that back, how to be a good steward of their money, and how to do these things themselves.
So, Chris, one of the great things about being able to be the host of the show, right, is that I get to ask all the dumb questions, right?
No such thing.
So people are watching this right now, and they're going, "Okay, Chris, like, what are you talking about? Like, am I going to have to do the equivalent of what these financial firms do for me? Am I picking stocks and bonds? Am I having to choose all that because I don't know how to do that, right? Is that what you're telling me to do? What are you telling me to do?"
No, I'm telling you to do the exact opposite of that. If you're putting money in stocks right now, well, you're in for a big awakening call, because we are at the end of a whole. This is way past the end of this pattern in this cycle, but
the market's never ending, isn't it? It's crazy.
The market's going nowhere but down. So if you're putting money in the stock market, you're making a huge mistake. So that's your first thing. Start there. I am absolutely not talking about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, or any of that stuff, because that's not where you're going to build your wealth. You understand real estate. Stay in your vertical. Stay in your lane. If you know real estate, stay there. Don't go over in left field or right field because you think that that's where the pastures are greener. The best pasture you're ever going to have is the pasture that you're already in. Real estate. So let's focus a little bit about how do you make better decisions in real estate? How do you buy more real estate? How do you own more real estate? Because that's just what your profession is. So that's an easier place to start. So I guess we could go a lot of different ways. I mean, I'll let you drive it. I mean, we could talk about how they can control their money, or we could talk about other people's money and raising private money, like my book shows. Whatever direction you want to go.
Let's talk about what an agent does with their own money. Lots of agents obviously are real estate investors as well, maybe whether it's on a small level or a big level. And you made the point before, right? Real estate has been the greatest wealth generator in this country's history, right? And homeowners, just your average homeowner has a net worth that is something like 18 to 20 times that of a non-homeowner, right? This equity builds over time. And by the way, I'm sure you know this, we're sitting at a point right now, and this is very different from 2008. You mentioned '08, where we've got about $4.5 trillion in equity in homes, and about a third of all homeowners in this country actually own their home outright. And so there's a tremendous amount of wealth there. And so the direction I might like to go is to say, how does somebody unlock some of that, right, to double down or build for the future? It sounds like that's a good transition.
Listen, I don't care where you want to go with money. It's all good because there's so many things. But let's talk about the equity in somebody's house. Let's start right there because you're absolutely right. Real estate has never been hotter. The value of people's homes have never been higher. And there is a ton of money sitting in what I call in my book, hidden equity, okay? The money that's locked in your house that's sitting there. And the funniest thing is, and I've literally done this, I've had friends of mine call me up and be like, hey, I'm having a party. I paid my house off. I'm like, oh, so you're having a house payoff party. Great, I'll be there. Because I go for the free hors d'oeuvres and the cocktails. But I go up to the person and I say to him, I say, hey, Jim, let's just make up a name, Jim. You just paid your house off. What changed in your life, man? And he looks at me and he says, Chris, I don't have a mortgage payment. Well, yeah, no kidding. What else has changed? I mean, you're taking more vacations, you're living a better life. Like, give me the good stuff. No, man, I don't have a mortgage payment. Like I'm excited. I got all this equity in my house. You see, therein lies the problem. When you have equity in your house is still a liability. That equity is doing nothing for you. I want you to envision this, folks. And imagine the worst day you've ever had, being a realtor. You had a bad day. Everybody was just, wasting your time. You come home, it's 9:00 at night. You're exhausted. You open the door and you look over in your living room, and on your couch is your money. And your money's drinking your soda, eating your potato chips, watching your TV, and your money looks back at you and smiles and says, what? Did you have a hard day? That's what your money's doing. If you've got equity in your house, your money is sitting lazy on your couch. That's all it's doing. You need to go over to that money and say, you know what? Tomorrow you're going to work. You're never coming home. You're never getting a vacation. I'm never going to give you sick time. You're going to work forever. And your money looks back at you and says, you know what? Thank God. You finally have something for me to do. You see, your money isn't like you. Your money doesn't ever want to stop or come home. So now let's frame that, right? So now that we know equity in your house is useless unless you're able to use it. How do you use it? There's two ways. Well, there's probably more, but number one, we all know of a home equity line of credit. You could go to your bank, you could get a home equity line of credit. It would cost you basically nothing unless your bank charges you for the appraisal. Now you've got access to that money, that equity. Now, if you don't use the equity, does it cost you anything? No, it costs you zero. But if you need that money to go buy this deal, let's say one of your clients says, I got to get out of this house. I'm in trouble. I'm going to lose it. I've been pushing this moratorium and this deferment thing. I need to sell this house tomorrow. And you say to them, well, we might not be able to get rid of this tomorrow. It needs a lot of work, but what if I were to buy your house? Or what if I knew of a cash buyer for that house? You see, in order to make that kind of a statement, you've got to have capital. Well, you do if you've got equity in your house, but let's say you don't have the equity in your house, okay? We're still talking about home equity lines of credit. Let's talk about your neighbor. I want you to imagine your neighbor has equity in your house. Now, every single person you will ever meet has a money problem. Whatever that money problem is, they all have one. They want to make more money. Maybe they don't want to make their car payment. Maybe they can't pay their college tuition, for their children. These are tough times for a lot of people. So you're having a discussion with your neighbor and you're just talking about normal stuff. The best way to frame this up, because a lot of people don't like talking about money. So don't talk about their money. Talk about your money problems. Talk about the equity in your house. Talk about how you're so sick and tired of everybody taking money from you and how the markets are going to go down. And then what your neighbor will all of a sudden start wanting to talk about the same thing. And then all of a sudden you get into a situation and they're describing their money problem. Okay. See, you didn't talk to them about their money. You talked about your money, but that got them thinking about theirs. Then all of a sudden they start talking about the other problems. I don't know how I'm going to make the car payment. Susie lost her job and I'm not working as many hours now with this COVID thing. I just don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. Bingo, right there. You just figured out your spot that their money problem is they need money, and you can solve that. So if you've got this deal from your client that's about to lose their house, you now say, hey, Jim, I got the solution. How about this? How about you do this deal with me? Okay, we'll do this deal and I'll make your car payments for you. And he'll say, well, yeah, but I don't have any money. Jim, you just said you have equity in your house. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know what to do with that. Listen, your house can pay for your car payment. I can go on for days like this, but do you see how you're framing it up where you're not talking to them about money? You're not asking them for money. You're solving a money problem. And that money problem is make their car payment for them. Make that college tuition payment for them. Heck, pay their mortgage payment for them. You can do that in real estate. See, the real estate can provide you an income. It can provide you money when you sell it. I mean, whatever. So that's option number one. I'm going along with this, but now let's just say somebody doesn't qualify for a home equity line of credit. That happens. Bad credit. Maybe your debt to income ratio is not quite so good. You don't qualify for a home equity line of credit. You're like, well, Chris, that doesn't do me any good. Oh, no, listen. There's private equity firms out there. I'll give you one. It's Quantum RE. It's not my company, but it's a company I use a lot. And Quantum RE is a group of private investors that will literally give you 80% of the value of your equity. Just like a bank would, they'll give you 80% of the value of your equity in your house. They will require no monthly payments. It will not be a debt. It will not be a loan. It will just be them basically coming in as a lien holder on your house. They're going to come in and they're going to basically be a lien holder. Now, you probably think you're right off the bat, you're probably thinking of reverse mortgage. Absolutely not. I hate those things. This is a private equity firm that just needs to put their money somewhere, and they don't care if they get paid for 30 years. Which means you can still live in your house. You can still enjoy your house. Just make sure you mow the lawn and plant the flowers. And this private equity firm will give you 80% of the value of your house or the equity in your house. And then someday when you sell your house, this private equity firm is going to have a lien, and you did an agreement where you're going to pay them back upon that day, whenever that day is, and you're just going to share in the appreciation of the property. You see, smart investors know that real estate is going to be one of the best places to park their money, but there's just not enough ways for them to get that much money into real estate. So you could use a company like Quantum RE to get the equity out of your house with no monthly payment, with no debt, and you then could take that money, deploy it out there and buy rentals, deploy it out there as private loans, whatever you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
There's so many options.
Absolutely. So Chris, you and I think, I'm probably older than you are, but you and I are old enough to have clearly lived through 2008. And I venture to guess that a lot of people listening also lived through what happened in 2008. And I remember vividly going to a BMW dealership with a friend of mine. And, he made money the good old fashioned way, just good old hard work, right? And there was this kid next to me. And he was buying a new, whatever it was, I think it was an X5 or something like that. And I was like, oh, wow, congrats. He's like, yeah, this is my second BMW in 2 weeks, but I need this one to tow my boat. Because he was tapping into these crazy prices and had no equity in his home, but people were given 100% loan to value stuff and 0 down payments. We all remember the time. And so I bring it up only because I know that that's not what you're suggesting, but I want to make sure that people understand sort of there's some scars still when we talk about HELOCs or home equity lines of credit, right? So I just want to make sure that we're very clear about how you're talking about tapping into that wealth and that money that's available.
So I'm so glad you went there, because a lot of people do make that mistake. That guy that was buying that X5 was making a massive mistake. You see, when you tap into the equity in your house, that you go and you tell your money on your couch to go to work, the only thing you need to be thinking is that money needs to go out there and make more money. You see, it's not going to be used to buy a flat screen TV, a BMW, or any of those frivolous things that just go down in value. That money needs to be deployed in something that's going to make you more money. Let's say you took the money that was in equity and you went out and you bought a double, right? That you rented out and you made a 10% return on your money. That 10% is probably about double what your HELOC's going to cost you. If your HELOC cost you 5% interest and you send it out there and you make 10, you're ahead by 5%. That's called arbitrage, right? Your money's working hard for you and making you more. You don't take equity in your house and go and blow it like that guy buying a BMW. You take the equity in your house and you make that money go out there and work harder to make you more money. And I do a lot of private lending. So I take money from my equity and I then go out and I lend it out at 10 and 12%. But now my money's making that spread. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you buy real estate. I don't care if you wait for this next bubble, this next dip, in real estate, and you start buying on the bottom. How many of you would have liked to have bought in 2009, 10, and 11? I mean, everybody's hands should be going up.
Yep.
What you might get an opportunity like that again. Maybe not the same thing, but it's certainly probably going to have some type of a correction. And if you're not in a position where you have the capital to take advantage of it, well, you'll be like, darn it, I missed another one. Don't miss it. Get ready for it because it will come. I don't know when, okay, but it always does. It's everything has ebbs and flows, whether it's the stock market or real estate. Get ready now.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense, Chris. I think there's another concept that I'd love for you to sort of touch on, which is I don't think that most people, I know most people don't truly understand the concept of things like compound interest or even little things when people think very sort of like order of magnitude and big and like I flipped the house and I made 20 grand or 100 grand or 5 grand, whatever it is, right? When you talk about, hey, I borrowed this money at 5%, I'm making a return of 10%, right? They think about that as so incremental, right? But if you look at it, of course, as you know, right, over time, it's a lot of money. So can you just touch on that topic?
Yeah, so let's talk about what Albert Einstein calls the eighth wonder of the world, which is uninterrupted compound interest. Those who understand it earn it. Those who don't pay it. Most people pay it. So let's go back to the beginning. Forget about everything we've talked about. Let's go back to where your money goes first. When you get paid and you get a big commission, where's that money go? It goes to your bank account. And then what happens to it when it hits your bank account? Poof, 90% of it or more is gone. And we're like, well, where did all that money go? Mm-hmm. Well, that's the problem. You see, if we just changed one thing and we took that part of that money, whatever that money is and whatever you're saving today, and we changed where that money went first, and then everything else remained the same after that, now you'd be able to earn uninterrupted compound interest. See, this is what the wealthy know. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Ray Krocs, the Walt Disneys, all the people in history that have used this concept, they knew where their money should go first. And it's not banks, folks. It's not Wall Street, folks. You know where it is? And this confuse you even more so, and I don't have time, so you're gonna have to watch some insurance companies. Mutually owned, ginormous insurance companies. This is the secret, folks. The largest secret of the wealthy, the thing I learned in 2014 that changed my whole life, is that one thing of changing where my money goes first. Now, see, I don't use banks. I keep less than $10,000 in a bank account, and if I got more than that, I start getting like the shivers because I know that money's it's dying. So I move it into these mutually owned insurance companies through a product you all know but don't understand called a whole life insurance policy. Now, as soon as I say that, you immediately think of the insurance policy you buy from the guy down the street or the insurance store. You see, I'm not talking about that, but I got to call it what it is. I'm talking about using a very specially designed and engineered whole life policy. Some of you may have known of this called infinite banking concept. You might know of it called the privatized banking system. That's what it is. This is what banks use. This is what corporations use. And this is what every multi-millionaire and billionaire uses. And if you don't think I'm right, ask them. Privatized banking has been around for hundreds of years, but they use these specially designed whole life policies as a bank. Why would they do that? Number one, does your bank pay you a guaranteed 4% on your money? I think not. Number two, every year the insurance companies do well and they share their gains. Mutually owned share their gains. They give you dividends. Number three, you have access to your money. You put money in it, immediately within the first 30 days, you can take your money back out. Now, no whole life insurance policy that you've seen has ever been able to do that. But most importantly, I want you to focus on this one thing because everything else is just leading up to this. I want you to imagine that you could put your money somewhere. Let's say you had 10 grand. And you put 10 grand into this specially designed and engineered whole life policy. Then 30 days later, you need $9,000. You go into that policy, you take $9,000 out and you use that $9,000 for whatever you were going to use. Let's say it's to buy a car, okay? Do you realize that in this insurance policy, that $10,000 you deposited, even though you took $9,000 of it out, all $10,000 is still earning a guaranteed 4% and will still continue to earn a dividend every year, even though you took the money out. Now that should confuse you because you should be like, that's impossible, Chris.
Sounds impossible. Yeah, I agree.
Too good to be true. Well, let me explain it one layer deeper. The insurance company when you took that $9 grand out, you didn't take your money. You see, the insurance company gave you their money from their general account. Now, why would they be so gracious to do that? Well, because they already promised to pay it to you, but they promised to pay it to you someday later when you graduate. And I don't mean graduate from high school or college. I mean die. I just don't like saying the word. Yeah. The day you graduate, the insurance company agreed to pay a death benefit to your beneficiaries. While you're living, the insurance company is gladly giving you their money because they got to pay it to you anyway, and they just take it from your death benefit. So if you had a $100,000 death benefit, you took $9,000, guess what? You got $9,000 less now. That's all they do. And while you're doing that, your money remains in your account, earning uninterrupted compound interest. You want to see how wealth really builds? Watch and learn how compound interest affects your future if that money never, ever, ever stopped. Can I go one more round? Because a lot of people don't understand it. This is the best way I can describe this. I want you to imagine that you went to a garage sale and you bought yourself an old vending machine. You brought it home and you put it in your garage and you're like, I doubt this thing's going to work. I just thought it was cool. Then you go out there with a dollar bill and you put a dollar bill in the vending machine, and the vending machine gives you your dollar bill back. And you're like, yep, I knew it was broken. And you're just about to walk away and the vending machine drops a cup and starts pouring coffee. And you're like, wow, that's cool. I got my dollar bill back and I got my coffee. You grab your coffee, you sip it. It's not even bad. And then you start walking away and you hear cha-ching. It drops some change and you're like, whoa. This vending machine's pretty freaking cool. I got my dollar back. It gave me my coffee and it gave me some change. So the first thing you do is you call your spouse. Okay. I call my wife over. Maybe if you're, your husband or whoever, your spouse comes over. You're like, honey, watch this thing. You put the dollar in, it gives you your dollar back. It drops the coffee down. And then all of a sudden, cha-ching, cha-ching, it gives you more change. You invite your neighbors over and all the people you know. And every time you do this, it does the same thing, but more change comes out of the thing. What I just described to you is privatized banking. It is exactly how it works. You get your money back. You get full access to it. Okay. You get the coffee, which is just the benefit of all the tax advantages and everything else. And every single day, because of uninterrupted compound interest, you have more money than you did the day before. So if you can envision having that magic vending machine, well, folks, it's existed for hundreds of years, and I just described it. My book talks about it, which you guys can all have my book for free. You can watch all the videos that teach you how to use this system, and this system will also work. And my favorite thing to teach is how you can get all the money back for every single car you ever buy, drive, and own. Now, I don't know what kind of car you drive, but I like nice cars. I just bought my wife a Porsche. I have a G-Wagon. I get all the money back for those purchases. Now that doesn't even seem real either, right? How can you buy the vehicle and then get all the money back, Chris? The car loses value. Listen, I don't care if the car goes to zero. I got all the money back. The car or the driveway, whatever that's worth, that's on top. You want to learn how to get all the money back? Folks, it's a 20-minute video that I can teach you exactly how to do that. And it just starts with changing one thing, and that's where your money goes first.
Well, I'm intrigued.
So listen, and there's no smoke and mirrors to this. Like I do this all over the country, and people are always like, yeah, there's a catch. No, there's no catch. Well, there's got to be a ton of fees. Yeah, the insurance company charges you $50 a year in a policy service fee. So there it is. Get the cat out of the bag. That $50 a year. There is no catch to this. It's just you have never been shown how this works because the advisors, like I used to be, can't make hardly any money off of this. You see, to do this the way the banks do, the advisor would have to agree openly to give up 90% of their income. Now, all of you are realtors listening, I think. Would you be willing to give up 90% of the income you make? Would you be willing to cut your commission 90% so that somebody else could have more money? Probably not. You probably couldn't. You wouldn't even be able to live. That's what it's required of us to do this. So the secret is, if you even said, all right, I'd be willing to give up 90% of my commission, but I'd have to sell 100 more houses or 1,000 more houses. Therein lies the secret. You see, it's a volume thing. For us to do this for people, we have to give up 90% of our income, but we just have to help a lot more people. And that's how this works. It's how the banks do it.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. Chris, this is actually a really great, I think, setup to learning more. So let me pull up a couple things on screen, and maybe you can direct us in some directions. So I've got your website up right now, chrisnaugle.com, about the Money School. Where do people go to get the book, to watch the videos? Where do we go here?
Perfect. So if you're in my website, chrisnaugle.com, 2 swipes on the mouse and you'll see free book right there. It says book. Just click that and you'll get a free book. Just pay the shipping to your house because I'm not going to pay the shipping. Okay. If you want the videos, then scroll a couple more and there's a resources tab, or you can just click resources. All these videos, the video on how to get all the money back for your cars, the video on how to use this for real estate, how to pay off your debt in a fraction of the time because of compound interest. They're all there. And the best thing is, it's all free. I'm not charging for anything. I don't make money on the book. I want you to read the book. I want you to understand that. And then someday, if you're ready to take that next step, hopefully you'll think of me. And that's how we do things.
That sounds perfect. And while I'm here, Chris, I've got your Instagram up, the Chris Naugle. We'll link to all of these things below so you don't have to remember them. Check that out. Bunch of cool stuff here. Nice following. We talk a lot about social media on this show, Chris, and so I think there's some things to learn from this. And then, of course, YouTube, the Chris Naugle. So we'll link to that below. Make sure you check out the content that he's posting there. He's building up his YouTube presence, so let's help support him in that effort. So, Chris, this is, I think, a great introduction to all of this, and I think some great tangible things and maybe some next steps for some people listening. Is there anything I missed that you wanted to cover today?
Yeah, if I could just recite a quote that was that changed my life, and it was a Will Rogers quote. Will Rogers said, "The biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so." Be careful of who you surround yourself with. Be careful of who you take advice from. Be careful of who you're sitting around the campfire with, because if they're not people living the life you want to live, you're working yourself backwards or you're stunting your ability to grow. So put yourself in the right place around the right people and you'll watch how your life will take off.
Amen. That's a great way to wrap the show. Chris, thank you so much for taking time to do this. I hope we get a chance to talk again because I think there's a lot of stuff that we could cover.
I appreciate it, and thank you. I was honored to be on the show.
Absolutely, Chris. We'll talk to you real soon. All right, well, there you have it. I think lots of really great information. Certainly piqued my interest, so definitely go and check out some of those resources. All of them are linked below. This is one of those things that some people get and some people don't get, and some people honestly are deathly afraid of thinking about all of these things, especially when you don't have a lot of money. And I know how challenging it is to be a real estate agent and the ups and downs that come from that. And so hopefully there's some stuff here that you can take away to learn to make the most of what you have, because a lot of us are homeowners and there's, again, $4.5 trillion in equity right now. And that's a lot. And if you work responsibly with that, that's the key, responsibly with that, you can secure a better future for yourself and your family. So until tomorrow, be safe, be healthy, be happy. We'll see you soon.